Cool.
And so we don't ever really look at the cameras other than
Yeah.
I'll do an intro and an outro, but other than that, it's just
I'm looking at you
we're
guys.
just hanging out. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No,
Yes. I can put a bag around.
no,
the
you
house,
guys, you guys are awesome. No.
We should get some masks. Yeah.
That would be.
I just watched
The right
Point,
guests have a mask like that we
Right.
that we wear.
I just watched the original Point Break. So you
Oh,
know,
okay.
Great movie.
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
on the bike on the trainer, and I was just watching.
Yeah.
You know, Ronald Reagan and LBJ. It was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Good
is
idea.
This is a classic.
Yeah.
I like that.
How long were you on the trainer for? Did you watch the whole movie on the trainer?
Usually, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my normal on a trainer ride is an hour and a half, and I'll go, now that I'm ramping up,
Okay.
it's 2 hours. It'll get to 2.5, and then it'll go to 4, you know, as I keep getting closer. And I'll pick up a lot of gravel rides.
Yeah.
I love to ride gravel, you know, because you get the vertical.
Yep.
You know, you get the vertical climbs, and you know, it gets the heart rate where I hate doing intervals on a trainer. It's just so tough. I'd rather do hills on the regular bike.
Do you have a movie queue you're working through,
I'm
or do you
working-
just kind of like get on and say, okay, what am I in the mood for?
I'm rewatching Sons of Anarchy right now, so I have plenty of seasons
Nice.
to continue
Okay.
to watch.
Yep.
Yeah, you forget how good that show really was.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I mean, I'll get bored and I'll switch it up. But I saw Point Break pop up, and I go, oh no, I gotta.
This is it.
Yeah, this is a long ride movie.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good movie. It has been a while. Did they make a remake of that?
Yeah, which is it was average. Okay, yeah.
Okay. I can't
It's
remember
usually
if
how
I
those
saw it or
remakes
not.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty, you know, at least I came to believe some of the things that could happen in the original, and then you look at the stunts in the second, you go, yeah, okay.
Right.
I know it's theater.
Yeah.
You know.
That's kind of like one of the series that, you know, as far as the stunts go, that really jumped the shark is Fast and Furious started with like street racing, and then all of a sudden went like, we're going to outer space.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that this has really moved away from the original movies
Yeah,
here.
Fast and Furious 9 kind of loses.
It loses the plot a little
yeah.
bit. Yeah.
They still made about $250 million.
I mean, you can't sniff at the amount of money.
Well,
they've
you get
made.
The Rock
Yeah.
in anything. He does cartoons, and they draw.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So-
We're still waiting for him to accept our invite to join the podcast.
Keep trying. Yeah.
Hasn't happened.
Man, that would be so cool.
So if you have any connections, let us know.
The only connection I have is say when you do, but I wouldn't give up. I would keep trying.
Well, Joe, you said your ancestors come from southern Italy. One of the screenshots on that rotating image or screen there is a picture of the Dolomites in northern Italy.
Yeah.
We had a guest a while ago who was doing a trip there, had just recently done a trip
come back,
there.
I think.
So we said, well, let's do the podcast episode there. So now we have southern Italy covered, and we'll just have to go
Just
over
to find
there and-
central Italy.
Oh, I'm sure we can find somebody. Yeah.
Just avoid all of Rome for the Jubilee and the new Pope and everything like that, because that's going to be a mess for a while.
I'm from the south suburbs of Chicago, so the Pope's a Sox fan. From the
Right.
south
Oh, there you go.
suburbs.
Yeah.
It's like, trust me. It's like, actually, his dad was a pastor of the church that I went to when I was a kid.
No kidding.
Really?
San Rocco's in Chicago Heights. I was born in Chicago Heights.
Okay.
So, there's, not that I could say I could remember him.
Yeah.
I was young.
Yeah.
But there's some lineage there to that family, to the south suburbs
Wow,
of
that's cool.
Chicago.
There you go. See, we've gone full circle.
I know.
now.
Yeah.
Exactly. I brought it all back.
We can go to the Vatican now anytime I can go, hey, you don't remember me.
As long as you're wearing your socks hat.
Yeah, you're in.
Shoot right in. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. Okay, well, we will keep that in mind when we do some international recordings. I mean, let's face it, cancer pretty much affects all of us, so we could certainly find some candidates over there
Oh, yeah.
and consume some good food. And
Just a couple bites
remind you.
here and there.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get rolling now that we've brought the Pope into this.
Yeah, we better get started.
We need every blessing we can
Could
get.
go downhill from here. We better.
Yeah.
Is this thing on? All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Summits Podcast. Thank you all for joining us from wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're joining us on the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. While you're doing so, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, we'd greatly appreciate it if you did so. The Pope would bless you, I'm sure, if you did it. Won't cost you a penny. And also hit that little notification bell icon when you're on there so you can be alerted when new episodes like this one drop. We greatly appreciate it. All right, today's guest, Mr. Joe Fazzini. We've already talked about from the south side of Chicago, ancestors from southern Italy, but we're not going to hit that. That's not why we're here. we'll go into a little bit, but we'll let Joe kind of give his own little background on himself and then go from there. So, Joe, welcome to the Summits Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
I do. Joe Fazzini. I'm born in 1958, which makes me a boomer, you know, in a lot of ways, I hope. But born and raised in the south suburbs of Chicago. Half Italian, half Polish, which meant the holidays were very interesting in my house. Yeah, I'm a father of 2, grandfather of 4.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Piper's just going to be 3. And my youngest was just born 2 weeks ago, little Luca Fazzini. You got to love that.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And so my life is blessed. I've got a lot of things to be very, very grateful for, including being a survivor. And but I got down here in Indianapolis in around 2000. I came down here for work, left the city of Chicago. And I always said, if you can't make a living in Chicago, you can't make it anywhere until I couldn't. And I came down here to Indianapolis and worked for still one of the best companies I've ever worked for at that time, Sallie Mae. I was in the student loan business. And was recruited by, I had one of the best bosses you could ever ask for, a guy by the name of Jeff Worley, who's been very important to my career. But I've had a great run in corporate America. I retired at 65. I'm semi-retired now. I still do some work for a company out of Ohio, specifically in the accounts receivable business. I'm in the collection business.
Okay.
And that's how I landed here. And our plan was, my wife and I, was always to move back to Chicago when that position at Sallie Mae ended. But, you know, we ended up loving it here in Indianapolis. Both my kids graduated from Indiana University.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah, so they were
kids.
Yeah.
So I'm an honorary Hoosier. I just feel like I put a couple bricks in one of those buildings there. So
Yes, thank you for that.
yeah, you're welcome. And it was, God, they loved it down there. I think my daughter would still live there because she really had a good time at Kilroy's.
Yeah.
And my son couldn't wait to get out. So.
Okay. Are they still here in the area?
Yeah, well, everybody's in Carmel.
Okay.
Both my son's family and my daughter's family. My daughter graduated, moved to Chicago, back to Chicago, then to L.A., met a guy from Purdue out in L.A.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Married him, then moved back.
And they did not know each other before they were out there?
No, they did not. You know, as Charlie, her husband, tells the story, it was that, you know, we heard these girls from IU had moved into town because she moved down there with a group of her sorority sisters.
Okay.
And that's how they met. And, yeah, interesting. You know, life is, you know, there's only 1 million Purdue graduates here in the state of Indiana, but she had to go out to LA to find the right one.
Right, yeah.
And my daughter met a young lady. I mean, my son met a young lady up in Chicago when he went to work for Guaranteed Rate. You know, and that was the best thing that happened about his trip to Chicago is that he met Tegan, and they moved back. So my grandkids are here.
Awesome.
My family's here. You know, I've been with my wonderful wife, Sherry. We're, you know, between dating and marriage, it's coming close to 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, that's just a little personal background of how I got here to Indiana, how my life is. You know, I'm a pretty, outside of my training, I'm a pretty boring guy, you know.
It's okay.
I'm a very loyal guy, and I believe in spiritual principles that, you know, honesty, integrity, fidelity, those types of principles. Just very basic block and tackle way I live my life. And it served me well. It has served me well.
Yeah, I would bet.
Yeah.
We'll probably go into this, but at what point did you start getting into running and cycling and such?
Wow. 1976, I laced up for the first time. I had a sports injury. I broke an ankle. Same ankle I broke to find out my cancer journey. And I had a hip level down to my toe cast for 9 months. Well, because I broke what the doctors, the orthopods, called a growing bone in my ankle. Yeah. And I had to stabilize it for 9 months. So, you know, I ballooned up to like 240 pounds, you know, after, you know, 9 months of being in a cast.
Right.
And I found painkillers and chased those down with a couple Miller Lights, you know, and the food addiction kicked in and just gained a bunch of weight. And I remember when they cut the cast off in 76, I said, I just can't be this guy anymore. So I laced up a pair of Pro Keds and tried running around the block, and it was virtually impossible. So that's how it started for me. But I started my senior year in high school at 240. By the time I graduated, I had picked up the running bug, and I was 155 pounds at graduation.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I ran twice a day for almost that whole season, you know, from my senior year in high school, and that's how it stuck with me. I bought my first cycle, my first bike in 1977, which was a Schwinn Voyager. It was as close as I could get to a racing bike back then. It was a steel chrome moly frame, and it weighed a ton, but, you know, I had a couple of buddies. We would just get on our bikes and go ride 150 miles. We'd ride from Park Forest, Illinois at that time to Bangor, Michigan, and then on a Saturday, and then ride back on a Sunday. So it was like, well, those were great weekends for me.
Sure, yeah.
You know,
a lot of memories.
Camaraderie and fitness, right? But, you know, got to remember, our meals back then, we didn't know anything about carb loading or anything. It was a Burger King Whopper and some French fries. Yeah. You know?
Back when you could eat that, it would never burn it off in an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's how I got started, and it's been part of my daily routine, literally, for 50 years, 48 years of training. I don't ever see stopping until I can't.
Yeah.
You know,
what aspect, or maybe I should say, what discipline? I mean, you do triathlons. Is there a particular discipline that you enjoy the most, or you love all three equally?
I've gone through phases where times it was running, there's times it was cycling and running, and I didn't learn to swim till I was 57.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a couple tries, the sprints over the years, and you know, I was a rock with arms, and so I learned I learned to swim at 57, and you know, it wasn't pretty, but it got done.
Sure.
And so I spent most of my time cycling, running, and lifting. You know, those are my disciplines. There was times I was a gym rat. There was times you couldn't get me off the bike, or you know, one of the things that really sticks out in my mind when we talk about training. My son, we were at dinner a couple, I guess maybe a year ago with one of my buddies, and we were talking about fitness and training and everything else. And he said to me, he goes, I don't remember my dad ever not getting up in the morning and the first thing he did was train, no matter what it was. You know, and that's how I've pretty much still lived my life. I like training early because my energy levels are high.
Sure.
Whether I'm 66 or 26, it was just the way I lived my life.
Right. Now, worked it into a habit, and
it's a lifestyle.
Habit to have.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When was your first triathlon?
Well, it was probably in the 90s. It was just a little backyard tri that was a 500-yard sprint triathlon with a 12-mile bike. And, you know, and then, you know, I had 2 kids at that point, kind of that type of training. I had to fit it in when I could, which is why usually it was 4:30 in the morning when they were sleeping to get up and get my training.
Sure, yeah.
So it just became predominantly lifting and running at that point while the kids were young. But it got done every day. I had a gym in the house. I go back to Bally's Fitness, the times where Bally's was there, and you know, that's where I would get my lifting in and things like that. But I got to say, after 48 years of training daily, it's taken its toll on my body. It's tired at times. I have to get my recovery days in.
Yeah.
But I still try to hit 340 days a year of training.
Okay, nice. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you mean by the aging process. As I'm 52 now, 52, whatever I am. It's amazing how all of a sudden little things are popping up, and I'm like, what?
Where'd that come from?
Where'd that come from? Yeah, I used to be able to.
What was that sound?
And then I'd have to like stop doing something for a month or two, and I'd go back in the gym and be like, holy crap, did I really drop that much in 2 months? And
absolutely.
I'm like, apparently I did.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not fun.
A week is a difference.
Yeah. Made pretty serious elbow thing I'm dealing with, and it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
frankly,
no doubt. And I like that you said the word ass.
Yeah,
I was worried about
pain in the elbow.
I was worried about cussing. So
no, we're good.
We're good. Yeah.
But yeah, it stinks. But then you try to find a way. It's like, okay, well, if it's going to prohibit me, or if the doctor's saying, hey, don't do these sets of exercises and for a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it is, what can I do? Because I'm 52 now. Not 25, you know, things will regress pretty quickly and all that. So what else is there still to do? So it's an interesting stage of life, to say the least.
Well, I've learned that swimming is my friend, even though I hate it.
I've never really gotten into swimming. A handful of times years ago, I tried to. I was like, wow, that's a lot harder than I thought.
Absolutely.
I'm sure I wasn't doing it right, but it's
Where's you out?
It is difficult.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from maybe not all, but several folks who've gotten in triathlons, they were either a runner or cyclist first.
Yes.
And the last thing was swimming, and not all of them, but those folks were like, yeah, I hate the swimming part.
Yeah. I use it as a recovery modality now.
Okay.
Versus a discipline that I'll get up and run. I mean, for years while I was training for Ironman, it was first thing was the swim.
Sure,
go
yeah.
to the pool. I hate chlorine anymore. If I can't get to open water, I'm not going to the pool. I just seem like makes me feel sick. I can't breathe. My head's congested. It's not the way, I'll wait till I get to the lake, and that opens up here in the next couple of weeks. I'll be back in open water.
Right.
So.
Where do you typically go?
I have a place up in Michigan on Diamond Lake. That's why Diamond Lake Sports is where I run my coaching business out of. And so, I swim up there. Usually once the water gets above 55, 58, I'll be in with a wetsuit and start putting some yards in.
I was going to say, the water's got to be pretty chilly right now.
It is. Yeah, it is. The pier's in, so once the pier goes in, I can start to ease my way in. I've tried swimming when it's colder than that, and it's like, nah, I'm
not
done.
worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm getting out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've literally swam down the shoreline and said, I'm walking back. I get out and walk through all my neighbors' yards coming back because it's not worth it. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
There's no polar bear club today.
No, it's okay. I always tell people it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's supposed to be fun. No matter what, at the end of the day, it's got to be fun or it hurts too much to do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a good segue. We had the privilege of hearing part of your story before we got on air, but I think now's probably a good time. So, Joe, what is your cancer story?
Well, I'm a prostate cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in 2008. And I guess as the story goes, I can remember being on spring break with my family down in Cancun. We were taking the kids down there. And when we landed, I told my wife, I said, I need to go. I was training for the mini marathon. And I said, I need to go out and get a 10K in before we do anything, just to shake loose and keep my training where it needs to be. So I went out for a run. About halfway in my turnaround point, I stepped in a hole and I broke my ankle. That same ankle I broke in high school.
Right.
So I limped back. Normally, at that point, I was doing a 10K in just around an hour, give or take a few minutes, depending upon the terrain. And when my wife knew when I wasn't back in an hour that something had happened.
Yeah.
So I limped back. I came back, and by then my foot was swollen inside the shoe, and it was just a gnarly mess at that point. I went to the hospital in Mexico. They treated me for a sprain, gave me anti-inflammatories and crutches. And so when I came back, I went to see my normal PC, my primary care doctor. And, he said, well, it shouldn't be this swollen, still this swollen. He goes, let's do an MRI. And then he goes, but you haven't been here in 5 years, so let's do your routine blood work while you're here. And a couple days go by. I was shopping at the mall for my kids, getting them a new bed, and he calls me on a Friday night, like 7, 8 o'clock. Doctor kept weird hours, I guess, but and he said, hey, I got good news and I got bad news. And he goes, I said, well, give me the good news. I'm a good news guy. I want to hear the good news first. He goes, well, the good news is your ankle's broken. Put you in a boot for 6 weeks. You'll be fine. He goes, the bad news is your PSAs, which is the marker for prostate cancer, are through the roof, and I'm sending you to see a specialist. And I said, well, great, just pass along the number, and I'll schedule an appointment. He goes, no, you don't understand, you're going Monday. So push came to shove. I went Monday, and they did the ultrasound, and he said, I don't like what I see. We need to do the biopsy. So I did the biopsy, and it came back. It was, I think they took 10 cores, and it was an 8, and it was a Gleason score of 7. And he says it needs to come out. And so I scheduled a surgery at that point to have an open prostatectomy. And the surgery actually took place on my 50th birthday.
Oh, wow.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And that's the same thing the nurse told me that morning as
Yeah.
she was checking me in, getting me all hooked up for the IVs and everything. And she goes, date of birth. I go, 6/27/1958. She goes, oh, my God, it's your birthday. I mean, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting ready for surgery. And she goes, you couldn't pick a different day? I said, no, we're doing it today.
Yeah.
So, it was on my 50th birthday. I had my prostate removed. And as my surgeon says, I said, how many lymph nodes did you take out? He said, I don't know, a couple handfuls. But my pathology report at the time of surgery was good. It came back that they had no margins, everything was good, the markers were all good. But the unfortunate thing for me is it came back. It had escaped the prostate capsule and had worked its way through somewhere in my body. They didn't know where. Had all the PET scans and everything, and it came back. By then, I was already seeing a. Let me take a step back. I saw a doctor. When it came back, I grabbed my file and went to see Dr. Michael Cook at the Indiana University Simon Cancer Center downtown, and it turned out to be one of the best things I could ever do. Going to a hospital that had a great reputation.
Yeah.
And the reputation that drew me, and I told you a little bit earlier that that's where Lance Armstrong went for his treatments. Mm-hmm. And I'm being a huge cyclist and a huge Lance Armstrong fan. I mean, and I'm still a huge Lance Armstrong fan. Yeah, I mean, he's got his demons, and we all do. But I said, if it's good enough for Lance in my brain, I said, it's good enough for me. And I showed up at Dr. Cook's office, and he read my file. They did the blood work, and it still came back as elevated PSAs. And he said, you're starting radiation. He goes, I'm sending you down to medical oncology right now. He didn't even let me leave. And they fitted me for the body thing, so I don't even know exactly the terminology, but so you don't move during the radiation chamber.
Right, yeah.
And, I had 39 sessions, and the unfortunate thing for me is it didn't work. It came back. It never left. Yeah. But my PSAs were still extremely elevated, and so they started me on androgen deprivation therapy. With a drug called Lupron. And at that time, Dr. Cook explained to me, he goes, we can't cure this. He goes, all we can do is make it abate. Mm-hmm. So they started injecting me with this drug called Lupron every 90 days. And I was on that for almost 8 years. Mm. Wow. 8 years. And during this time, I still trained. I mean, it was very difficult. I still trained. At that point in time, I lived right off the Monon Trail here in Carmel. Okay. So it was like I would get out and try to run. It was more like run 10 feet, walk 100 yards, mm-hmm. run 10 feet, walk 100. And that served me well to a time where my endurance started coming back. But you got to remember during androgen deprivation therapy, they had shut my testosterone down to 0. It was undetectable because this prostate cancer, you're aware with all your interviews and your own knowledge, is that prostate cancer survives off of male testosterone. So they had to shut me down to 0, and I was in and out for 8 years with Lupron until I went to Dr. Cook, and I said, I want to be an Ironman. I want to do an Ironman.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's going to be very difficult to do this while you're on Lupron. He goes, he goes, how many hours a week will you be training? And I said, anywhere between 15 and 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Swim, bike, and run.
What was the prompting for you wanting to do an Ironman? Was it just like you woke up one morning with the bug, or?
Yeah. Well, but that was 1982. I woke up with them. If you ever watch Wide World of Sports, it's growing up when I did in the 70s and the 80s. The Wide World of Sports is how you got your information. There was no internet. You get some magazines in the mail, but I saw Julie Moss when she crossed the finish line in a very difficult race, and I said I want to do that someday. And I had already back in the 80s, like I said, I was always pretty fit. But a twist to my story is I was always hanging around with guys that were athletes and guys that actually did go on to do Kona in the early 80s after they saw the same show I saw.
Yeah.
Except I picked up at that point in time, I like to call these moments of truth, like being diagnosed with cancer and coming to terms that I had picked up a drug habit. And at that time I was addicted to amphetamines and alcohol. And I realized at 24, and I've been clean ever since. So I'm not California clean. I'm legitimately clean.
Yeah.
And could pass a drug test at any time, anywhere.
Yeah.
And I had to recover from that. I sought help for that, and I've been clean ever since March 13th, 1983.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, but my buddies were going on to. You asked about how I got here.
Yeah.
I watched them go on and saw their pictures at the finish line in Kona, and I said, I have to do that someday.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, it didn't become a reality until I was 57. That's when I passed my first Ironman finish line, which was Ironman Arizona. But my conversation with Dr. Cook ended up going like, he goes, well, you probably won't be able to do it with the testosterone of 0. We got to get at least up to some sort of baseline. So he said the only way I know how to do that is to take you off the drug and see how your body reacts. If it comes back, you got to go back and take the needle. And I said, well, I'm willing to try it. And he let me. He heard me.
Yeah.
And so he took me off the Lupron, and I zipped up, laced up, and rode up. And I just did what I need to do. I mean, back then I was able to start ramping up to, running 30 miles a week and biking a couple hundred and swimming. I was never a good swimmer, so it was 10,000 yards were big weeks for me. But that's how I got hooked up on Ironman and how I wanted to do that. It was a vision I always had. Never thought it would be possible until these moments of truth happens when I was faced with cancer and drug addiction, and, put things on hold. But it was a journey well worth taking, because the happy ending of this story is that through this training and a restricted diet, I had gone completely vegan at that point. I stopped eating all. I mean, I haven't had a steak since 25 years. So I haven't had any red meat in 25 years. And so I ended up making that transition to vegan. Now I've introduced some eggs and some fish back into my diet. As I've gotten older, the protein has become extremely important for me. But that's, between the vegan diet and the amount of training I was doing, I was very blessed. And I really, as I told you earlier, I'm one of the lucky ones. It never came back.
That's amazing.
My
Yeah.
PSAs to this day still remain undetectable. And, I love when Dr. Cook sits me down and we do my annual test. He goes, Joe, you're just not in any textbook. He goes, there's just no case study. You're not in any textbook. And I get goosebumps when I think about it, because, I try to live a spiritual life. I have a tremendous faith.
Yeah.
And I believe that my story needs to be told, if it's not just for me, but there's probably somebody out there who faces these challenges on a daily basis. And I know I touched on earlier, we don't really talk about the mental health aspect of cancer enough, and the trauma that it not only caused me, because when you're suffering from any disease, you become very self-centered, and every thought, every headache, every time your knee hurts, every time your wrist hurts, you think it's a tumor. So it's back. Now I got to go back. So, I watched what it did to my family, and my wife was my biggest supporter through all that. And I can remember one time, and this is honest to God, candid conversation, is that I just saw Dr. Cook, and my PSAs had hit a new level high of 9 at that point. And my wife was sitting there with me, and he goes, we have no choice but to go back on the drug. And I told my wife, I said, you don't want to see this. You don't want to hear this. You need just go home and I'll meet you there. So she left, and she ended up getting in an accident on Meridian driving home, totaled out her car. I mean, what cancer causes, the pain and anguish in the family and the worry.
Yeah.
She was tremendous. I remember I pulled up at the scene, and funny thing, she happened to hit a cop on top of it. So there was like 15 squad cars, stadies, locals. I mean, it was like, the guy goes, anytime I go up to the cop, I go, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, anytime one of our own get in an accident, this is what happens. Like, okay. But the good news is my wife was okay. We had to have the car towed, and, I took my medicine, and, the rest is history. But, one of the other stories that I need to tell you about how tremendous my family is through this, is that I can remember laying in my hospital bed after I was in the hospital for nearly 5 days after I had my prostate and the lymph nodes removed. And my son was, I don't know how old he was by then, and I always used to tell my son, I still do, that your old man's tough as nails, and I can remember coming out and just waking up, and my son's sitting next to the bed, and he just looks at me. I got tears coming down because the pain was intense. I mean, you got to remember now, not taking any pain medication.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coming from a disease of addiction, I told my surgeon, can't do it. And I know he listened, just like you tell a doctor, I'm not, no matter what, I'm not doing it. And my son's sitting there and he just looked at me and goes, you're tough as nails. So I need a second. Those are moments that stick with me.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But, they've been great through all this. And guys, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
I think we need to add the slogan on the side of that hat that says hashtag tough as nails.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but, I'm a survivor.
I think everything, based on everything I've just been taking notes on, I would say it's true, 100%. And we just met today.
You're very kind. Thank you. I mean, I love my life. That's like I was telling my wife the other day that death doesn't scare me anymore. What scares me is how will I die?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know there's an expiration date. I'm going to be 67 next month, and I don't see anybody get out of this thing unscathed, And I just told her, I said, that's what scares me the most is how is it going to be?
Yeah.
Will I be in a wheelchair? Will I have to race a wheelchair? I mean, because I'll find something to race. I will find something to make sure I can get some motion in. And, but yeah, that's my cancer story. I mean, I can't tell you. I've had hundreds of healthcare professionals, between radiation technicians, medical oncology, nurses, doctors.
Yeah.
They've all been great. And anybody struggling, IU Simon Cancer Center saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was my connection to reading Lance Armstrong's books and being a huge Lance fan during his heyday, saved my life, so be it. I'm giving it 100% credit for that because that was part of what drove me mentally.
Yeah.
And I liked when I went down to medical oncology that Lance had all his posters and jerseys up there. It was like, I just sat as close to them as I could, hoping I could get some of the mojo from that. So, but that's really, if I could sum up my cancer story for you, that would be it.
Yeah.
What was obviously completing Ironman was a big accomplishment, right? So what was the first thought you had when you crossed the finish line? You said Ironman Arizona, right?
Ironman Arizona, it was 2017. And I did Ironman Louisville in 2019 as well. And a lot of halves in between. But that first one was pretty special because a lot of my team, I'm a member of the Tri-Locos.
Okay.
So I had a lot of my teammates were doing that. It was our club event that year.
Yeah.
So they're all fast. So, they're all 10, 11, 12, 13-hour people. And I came in at 16 hours, 14 minutes, And so they were all there at the finish line. The bonuses, so was my wife and kids. Nice. And they've been at any of my big finish lines, any of them. And how did it feel? I can't even tell you. There's videos of me trying to climb over the barriers to get to my teammates because they, everybody's younger than me. They're just younger than me.
Yeah.
So it was always an inspiration for me because they're doing big things, and I wanted to do big things. So I figured let me hang around with these guys, and I joined that club in 2015 and hired a coach to help me get through the Ironman. I had a coach, Nick Trambarger, for 5 years as he got me through the both Ironmans.
Okay.
But it inspired me to go out and become a coach myself. I would really like to focus on master athletes. But I can't even describe to you how it felt for me to live a lifelong dream, literally a dream for 50 years.
Yeah.
To pass that line and step over it. And then, I got to my Ironman poster, and I signed it, put my time on it, and brought it into Dr. Cook. Had it framed.
That's awesome. Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And I got pictures of it hanging in his office. That's like, I love when he tells me you're not in any textbook.
Yeah.
But I guess I got to show him a little bit about what the mental health aspect of this disease is. It could be your best friend. It could also be your worst enemy.
Yeah.
And, but the drugs they put me on, the antidepressants to get me through the treatment, I wouldn't be here if they didn't do that. And the communication that they gave me.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy who's a psychiatrist on staff down at Emory University, And I worked with him as we went through being a recovering addict. I went through the transition of the antidepressants with him. You know, went through my cancer history with him, and he went to the clinical pharmacist to make sure what was going on was legitimately what I was telling him.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to the right professionals, and I talked to them, and when they put me on the Zoloft, I was on it for 4 years, and I was in remission then. And Dr. Cook said, he goes, let's try taking you off of it. So I worked with my doctor. I'll leave his name out of it. I worked with my buddy down at Emory to come off it, and I took a extended cycle of withdrawal off the Zoloft to give my natural serotonin a chance to come up to the right levels. And it worked. I mean, he took me through a 6-week process of getting off that, and I haven't been on it ever since. So I haven't needed it. I've been in remission. Yeah, I'm in remission now for 8 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I ended up taking my last shot in 2016 of Lupron. Yeah.
When you went off Lupron, about how long did it take for you to start feeling like, okay, I'm starting, maybe not myself, but more like myself than I was before, for sure?
I wouldn't say it was instantaneous, but it was quick. I mean, it was within a 3-month period that I felt like, all right, I got a little bounce in my step.
Right.
All right, I'm not fatigued all the time. I'm starting to get my natural. My testosterone levels have never been high ever since that. I mean, it's never rebounded past maybe like a 360, 370. My readings have been at. I just had one done this last week because I keep a monitor on it. It was 351, so I'm still at the low end of normal.
So what's the normal range? I don't even know.
I think it's 300 to 1,000 for you know. That's what you read, right? I mean. What I think normal is how do I feel?
Yeah.
How do I feel? And I feel good right now. You know, I feel good. So it's I've got a couple of races coming up, and you know, I'm doing as a relay Ironman Rockford 70.3 in June. I got a team put together. I'm doing the cycling portion because you asked me earlier what's my favorite. I love the bike. I got 8 bikes.
Yep.
You know, Chris built me a really, really nice road bike, and Chris Carr.
Sure.
We talked a little bit about, and I got to give Motion Cycling and Fitness a shout out here, and Chris Carr. And I think it's important I tell Chris's story because I was in the middle of treatment, and I don't know, it was one of the Carmels, one of the first ones. I did the very first one, and I did several after that. But I was out running the marathon, and this kid on a bicycle, and I told Vince earlier, this kid pulls up and he's got legs that look like a secretariat, veins and everything. You know, I hated him, but he started riding with me because I had on my Livestrong cut off, you know, with F cancer on the back, and he rode up next to me. He goes, "What's your story?" And I told him, I said, "Well, this is my first marathon back. I'm in treatment for cancer." And he's riding with me, and I'm talking and talking. I'm a talker, as you can tell. I love to talk, especially telling the story. And he's riding with me, you know. And he picked me up like around mile 10, and he's still riding with me. And he goes, "Hey, I'll be back, but I got to go check on my girlfriend." Never caught this guy's name. All I remember is lemon yellow shoes, cycling shoes, and legs that I was jealous of. And next thing I know, he's back. He's riding with me. How you feeling? Terrible. How you feeling? Terrible. You can do this. Okay. So we're still riding. Next thing I know, he's gone. Never caught his name. Never knew who he was. A few years passed by. I finished the marathon. A few years passed by. See this guy riding a bike, bright orange cycling shoes. And he's on my street where I live. I go, I know that guy. So I follow him down, walking a little bit, and he pulls in a driveway 4 houses down from me. I go, I told you, you don't remember me. He goes, yeah, I do remember you. And I introduced myself. I'm Joe Fazzini. I'm Chris Carr, Motion Cycling and Fitness. And I said, well, I just want to thank you for getting me through that day. And I don't do anything bicycle anymore without going to see Chris. But that's my relationship with Chris and how I got here with you guys today. It's because I called Chris. I said, hey, I'm really getting back into cycling. Where's the club I can join that I could get some motivation at? And he said, well, you need to go to the Heroes. And I reached out through, and I think I clicked in through Instagram and tied me up. And eventually I got to talk to Annie and Mary. They're doing my fundraising page. and I want to plug the event I'm doing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm doing the 24-hour cycling challenge in Lafayette on August 2nd and 3rd.
Okay.
It's as many miles you can ride in 24 hours. And last year I did it. I wasn't expecting as cold as it got, and I ended up getting 200 under my legs in 24 hours, and I could have done more. So this year my goal is 300.
Okay. Wow.
You know, and if I can get more in, it's 300 or die. That's how I'm looking at it for me right now. It's all in, pushing all the chips in. And so I'll have my tri-bike out there to ride during the day because it tends to be windier during the day. And I'll bring my road bike out at night because you got to ride with lights on and everything.
Sure, yeah.
But it's a 2-mile track. It's a test track for cars.
Okay.
It's as many loops as you can do.
Oh, you said it's the Subaru facility?
Yeah, off of 65 there. You pass it every time you're going up Sorensen or South on 65. And
I try not to go to Lafayette if any more than I have to.
Yeah, I'll go IU, right? Yeah. Oh, we got another Boilermaker?
Yeah.
So you're a mixed couple.
Exactly.
We are. I will say
Thanksgiving's
this
interesting.
real quick. We banter all the time between IU, Purdue, and then, of course, the Notre Dame domers that get involved. Of course, they immediately think they're above here. We won't go there. It's fun to talk about the athletic side of the competition, whatever.
Sure.
But here's an interesting thing about Indiana, and I didn't learn this until the last handful of years. Typically, from a cancer research perspective, you think of IU, right? Because of the med school, et cetera. However, what we've learned is Purdue and Notre Dame independently are doing cancer research on their respective campuses.
Nice.
And better yet, as I had asked, I go, Docs, I'm going to ask a dumb question, but are you guys working together? I mean, I'm so used to the athletic competition, like we won't talk to Purdue, we won't talk to Notre Dame, whatever.
Yep.
It's like, well, obviously with IU having the medical school and the fact that you have 3 major institutions within a couple hours of each other.
Yeah.
Yes, we actually do all work together. I'm like, perfect.
Yes,
That's
sir.
awesome. And I think that story needs to be told.
Yeah.
Well, my radiation oncologist ended up leaving IU right after my treatment, Dr. Coe, and he ended up landing at Purdue.
Okay.
I mean, I follow my doctors because in case I need them.
Yeah.
I want to keep a Rolodex.
And you know where they're at.
Yeah.
Relationships are important.
And my medical oncologist, Dr. Noah Hahn, is heading up bladder and prostate cancer at Johns Hopkins now.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's like if Dr. Cook ever retires, which I hope I get a couple more summers out of him, and I'll end up tracking those guys down because they were just spot on. They were just spot on. I'll tell you, the healthcare I received at IU was amazing.
It's good to know.
So, tremendous. I would recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, cool. Well, Joe, we wish you much luck with the 24-hour cycling event up in Lafayette. You said first weekend of August?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If people wanted to follow you or contribute to your fundraising campaign, where can they go to do that?
Well, I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
You can connect with Joe Fazzini on Instagram or Diamond Lake Sports on Instagram. I have a page for that. Same on Facebook. But you guys are kind enough to develop a fundraising page for me for the Heroes Foundation. Yep. Everything I do this year is for you.
Well, we appreciate that.
And I've been organizing triathlons up in Michigan for the last 10 years, and all these connections. And this year I finally retired from event planning. It's just way too much. I'd rather train. I got bucket list things I want to do. 4 grandkids. I want my summers to be worrying about tubing my grandkids versus making sure nobody dies on my start line or finish line. So that's what I plan on doing. But you guys have been kind enough working with your crew to help develop my landing page and my fundraising page. And as soon as I get that established, I'm going to start working my network. And my goal is to raise $5,000 this year.
Awesome.
Yeah. For the Heroes Foundation. And, God willing, we can double it. I mean, that's
absolutely.
I have some very, very good friends out there that have supported me through my journey, and and like I said, I do want to close with reminding people that if you need the mental help as you're struggling, and your family as well, struggling with the afterburn of cancer, please get it because help is available if you ask for it.
That's right.
Yep.
And that's what I needed to do. It's like when I needed help to get off the drugs, I asked for help, and help became available. And when I needed help to get through the mental part of cancer, when I made my plea, I said, I need help. And that call was on a Sunday afternoon. I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And Monday morning, they were right on me to make sure that I was going to be okay. So the right healthcare professionals made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah,
huge difference.
Well said. Well, once we establish that link to the fundraising page, we'll get that. Guys, we'll put the link in description. So please check that out and make a contribution to Joe's efforts. Both, I'm sure Joe, obviously, personally, as well as the Heroes Foundation, would greatly appreciate that. And as Joe said, goals are meant to be broken. So the goal might be $5,000, but if we don't hit 10K, then shame on us.
Yeah, we didn't do our job.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, Joe, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate
you.
your time and openness to sharing your stories.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank all you guys for tuning in this episode of the Summits Podcast. We appreciate you guys for joining us wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're joining us from the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel or on the YouTube channel, we appreciate that as well. Don't forget, check out Joe's fundraising page, make a contribution, cheer him on, leave some comments of encouragement for him. Until then, don't forget, beat cancer.